Hey everyone, welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today I have the honor to speak with Michael Max Darrow. Michael is a retired police officer and infantry officer. He has a background in martial arts and has recently learned the writing game. Michael has now published 2 books with 2 more on the way. So Michael, thank you for taking the time to come on today. I look forward to learning more about you and hearing what you have to share with us today. But I like to start out with this question, and this may take it way back, but what motivated you to kind of join the police and military? What was kind of the motivation behind that?
When I was a kid, you looked to the strong male figures in society. As boys, probably more when I was a kid, back in the 60s in Los Angeles, it was all about being macho. And so, you looked to the macho professions. You looked at law enforcement and the military. So I went in the military first, and then I went into law enforcement. Had I followed my dreams, I probably would have been a veterinarian, but that wasn't macho. So, so I love animals.
Really? What was kind of the interest behind animals? Just you grow up on a farm, or like what was kind of?
No, just had dogs and cats growing up. I'm still, my wife and kids call me the cat whisperer because there's not a stray cat that doesn't come to our house and get food, No.
That's cool. That's something I think not too many people would put together, right? Military and, animal lover, because...
Yes, us macho guys can have a soft side too.
I feel like everyone always has to have that, that soft side too. Like that's something that just, you have to care about something, right? Like... I know sometimes as that macho man, you're like, I just no feeling, no emotion, no nothing, right? But it's okay to let loose on some things, right?
Hey, I cry at commercials now. I mean, when you get older, your emotions come out more, and I see a sad commercial, I do that.
Like those commercials, the donate to save a dog today, and
no, those are the worst. I can't even watch those.
Those commercials are something. Yeah, don't worry, you're not alone in that one. That's something I think everyone's like, oh man, something makes you want to go buy a dog or something. It's like, I gotta go adopt a dog real quick.
Yeah.
So you didn't really pursue that path, but what was maybe the reasoning why you didn't go down that road? Was it just society pressure, or just what kind of was the reasoning?
Probably society pressure. I had a dad that was a macho. Well, he put off a macho persona. He was an only child, son of Oklahoma sharecroppers. So he was very much a cowboy. So you got to young boys. I think they grow up trying to impress their dad. So that probably had a lot to do with my career choices.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's something I think everyone at the end of the day, right? They want to make their parents proud, or they want to progress the family name better than what it was, type of thing. That's something I think a lot of us have this pressure on, and now that you mention it, it's something I think I do as well. It's like my dad, he did better than his dad. I'm like, I want to do better than mine, and it's like you want to just progress the family name. That's something I want to do as well. But so what was it like then being in the military? What was it like law enforcement? What was it like being in there?
Military, I liked. It's because the rules are cut and dry. There's no wiggle room. It's very regimented oriented. Serving your country is a great thing. I was fortunate because I'm a Cold War veteran. So, I didn't have to see the combat that the guys saw going over to Iraq, Afghanistan. I'm thankful for that. I can't help when I was born and when I turned 18, I served as soon as I could. And, we couldn't just get rid of the military during the Cold War. Obviously, it was a stressful period because it was full of a lot of preparedness and drills all the time. It was the Russians are going to attack or drop the nukes on us any minute. So there was a lot of stress, not a lot of shots fired, obviously.
Man.
Yes, there's one of my cats.
No, I love having another guest on. That's something we all can have. So, I mean, kind of my audience base and, people that listen to the show, they weren't alive when the Cold War was happening. I wasn't alive either, right? And it's kind of an interesting point in time because it's recent, right? We still have people that went through that. Like my parents were alive. They were growing up when that was happening. What was kind of that like? What was the Cold War like?
Oh, it was a lot of people were, the doomsday, the preppers, we had a lot of those building silos in their basements and fallout shelters. And it's funny because I see stories on the internet all the time where I was remodeling my front room and found a bomb shelter underneath the front room from the 70s, from the 60s. It was a lot of fear and worry for the population, and then just a lot of training for us. Yeah, he's walking in front of my camera there. My wife just kicked me at the cat.
Awesome.
Yeah, now we've had a resurgence of that because of the pandemic. A lot of people started the prepping thing, and remember when you couldn't find toilet paper for 6 months?
That is still fresh in all our minds. And so I guess you having experience growing up in that time, and what would you kind of suggest, how we handle the fear then today, like the uncertainty, the fear that comes today? I mean, we've obviously had it happen before. What's the best way we can handle it today? I
think the best thing is just don't let it overtake you. Live your life. You could prepare a little bit, I guess. Have a couple cases of top ramen and some water supply or something. But I mean, I'm 61 now. I'm soon to be 62, and I've noticed in my life that the worst things in my life never happened. It's just we stress and we worry about things. Sit back and relax. Trust our government. That's kind of hard to say right now with everything you see in the news.
Huh.
Yeah, but just don't stress too bad. Life is good.
I think that's a great approach actually to life, right? Have like that optimistic view, like, hey, things are going to work out. And oftentimes I think, what was it? There was a quote I freaking read in a book. I can't cite the exact source, but they said something like 90% or what happens, like the bad things that happen in our head type of thing. It's not even
yeah, it's true.
Anything like that. But yeah, I for one respect people with any military, any police background in general. But what's kind of some of the lessons character? Because I feel like it's a good character building moment when you served and things. What were some of the things that helped develop your character and like who you are?
Well, the military is definitely good. I mean, I encourage all men and women to serve their country. My daughter served 5 years on the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier, up on the flight deck launching jets, one of the most dangerous jobs in the military. And I've noticed that she, has a lot of self-confidence now. She's about to graduate from UNLV, and she's already got the job of her dreams lined up. So, yeah, it gives you a lot of confidence. Now, as for law enforcement, we need law enforcement. It's a totally different era now for law enforcement than when I was a police officer. You've got cell phones and body cameras, and everybody's scrutinizing every new move you make. I wouldn't enjoy being a police officer today. I joined, to make a difference and to help people, help society. And I worked in a very busy city in Southern California with a lot of crime. And I took away good and bad from it. Good was I made a lot of difference. I saved lives. Bad was there's a lot of inside turmoil in police departments because you have people. And when you have people, you have, especially police officers, type A plus personalities. You have a lot of petty jealousies, and everybody's dating everybody, and the dispatchers and the records clerks, and it's a love boat, and a lot of backstabbing and stuff. That was the not fun part of law enforcement. You're going to have that in any police department. I kind of wish I would have done 10 years and then went to Wyoming or Montana, like did the Walt Longmire thing, got out of the big city, but I didn't. So
Thank you. I mean, that's something. I mean, everyone has someone's got to do it type of thing, and that's that's something that I just again.
yeah, it's great. I've been punched, kicked, run over, spit on. Yeah, it's great
Man,
job.
you see
Yeah.
the ugly parts of society and take care of it, and kind of protect people, and that's something I think people don't really give credit to that often. And first off, thank you. But you mentioned something about confidence and like building self-confidence. I think a lot of kids, especially like when I interact with them. I mean, you mentioned your daughter when she joined, served on the aircraft carrier. She developed a lot of self-confidence, but often like maybe some people don't want to go that route. What would you say is a good way to kind of help build that self-confidence in themselves so then they trust themselves to actually do what they want to do?
Martial arts. Martial arts are great for self-confidence. It's funny because I started in the martial arts at a young age, and then ended up teaching martial arts to youngsters. And even when I was an adult in the martial arts and a new person would join, let's say some guy, 25, 30-year-old, joins in the martial arts, and he gets punched in the face, and the reaction on his face, he's like, that's the first time I've ever been punched in the face in my life. And I'm like, wow, really? I mean, that's surprising because a lot of people don't have that kind of confidence. And you see a change in people when they've been in the martial arts for a year or two. They're more confident. They hold themselves a little better. They realize they can get punched in the face. Their fear goes down as far as like verbal confrontation skills. They're not going to be as afraid. But we also stress in the martial arts that a fight avoided is a fight won, and not to engage. Honestly, the worst people in the martial arts are your white belts and yellow belts, right? Because they've been studying the martial arts for a month or two, and now they know everything, and they think they're Jean-Claude Van Damme. So after we get them out of that, a few years down the road, if they survive to the higher belts, the greens and red belts, then they're doing pretty good. Some people quit. It's tough. There's a lot of pain involved. I broke a lot of toes and metacarpals in hands.
I mean, I thought it was just kind of like how they portray. I mean, obviously, maybe I need to get out a little more and maybe experience some of this martial arts myself. But like just the movies and stuff, they kind of portray it as like, what you mentioned. Just I know everything and just bam, bam, bam. Like, and they always try and engage. Yeah, and they go engaged in fights and stuff. But yeah, that's something I think could benefit a lot of people. And I've heard it helps with discipline as well, right? Like really just helps you stick with stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Kids with discipline problems, you put them in the martial arts or an organized sport. A lot of times young boys and girls, they got a lot of energy. And parents nowadays, it's not like the 50s and 60s where mom's at home. Usually both parents are working these days if there are both parents. And so the kids are bored. I mean, nowadays they're on their phone playing a game or playing their, Nintendo Switch or whatever. But when I was a kid, I mean, there was sports, things to do outside. So there's things you can get kids involved in now that are going to get them some self-confidence, some interaction with other people. There's soccer camps. There's all kinds of things out there. Ice hockey. I love playing ice hockey. I mean, there's things to do.
I agree. For one, I played I was very active and I did a basketball and track when I was in high school, and that was again it was interesting because like each sport has like their own lesson. I feel like, right? Like each like basketball kind of taught you the like focus on like kind of the fine details and like this move whereas track was more of like, no, like you got to actually do this yourself if you want to win. Like it was something like that. So I kind of want to ask this. What would you say is something martial arts teaches that no other sport or no other thing can teach?
I don't know that. I mean, obviously, getting getting hit and hitting other people is part of the martial arts. So a lot of your sports, unless you play ice hockey, fighting is not part of that. So martial arts is fighting. So it's developing and understanding the kinesiology of the human body and how to strike and striking points that are effective, what works and what doesn't work, what flowery, showy kicks look great in movies and what don't actually work in real life. So martial arts is good, hockey's good. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, any sport is going to teach a kid. I just hate today's giving everybody a trophy thing. I mean, in the martial arts, if you don't learn everything, you're not going to progress to the next belt. You're not going to get it because, at least in my martial arts styles, you had to show everything you learned to get the next belt. Otherwise, you stay at this belt. You don't move forward. Well, nowadays, here's a trophy, Jimmy. Here's a trophy, Janie. Thanks for participating. We're all winners. What does that teach them in life? No, when their first job interview, when they say, "Oh, you don't fit the profile," sorry, they're crushed. You got to fail. You got to learn how to fail.
I agree. That's something I think has been huge. I mean, a lot of people, they're going into their careers now, and it's like you said, they go into that job interview and they say, no, you're not allowed, or like, nope, you just don't fit the qualifications. And they're like, what? Like, I did everything I was supposed to. And I'm like, hate to break it to you. Like, there's just some times where it's just like, you have everything, you met the criteria, but you just don't get it. Like, that's just doesn't happen for you. And that's okay, type of thing. And where it's like I think it's better to experience it when you're younger, because then you learn to like deal with it, cope with it. Because don't get me wrong, losing's not fun, right? I don't like losing.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
I like to win. But at the same time, you gotta, once you're older, if that's the first time you learn to lose, then yikes.
You can't have a meltdown, in a job interview at 22 or 23 years old because you never failed before. That doesn't look good.
Especially on social media and stuff. I mean, yes, there's a lot of bad things that come with it, but one of the things you'll find I've seen on a couple of the videos that like people post, and it's like most successful people say, dude, we failed over and over and over and over and over again. And then we finally got one. It's like we got one win to every 10 losses we had, but here we are and everyone's calling us a success. And it's like, there you go, right? It's okay to lose. Now, I think there's a difference, right? You can settle and be like, oh, like I'm just a loser, whatever. Or you can actually go out and do something about it as well. So I think it's only natural for me to ask, how do you get people to overcome, I guess, that, like if they get stuck type of thing, like in that, oh, I'm just going to lose, like why bother trying? How do you get them to kind of just say, no, like I'm going to do something about this, actually act? I think that's something a lot of people fail to do, is to actually act.
Yeah, I don't know if that has to do with upbringing or what, but I mean, in one of the places where I practiced the martial arts, there was this a slogan, a saying above the door, and a lot of us we would reach up and touch it on our way out, and it said, "Winners never quit, quitters never win." And you have to be stubborn. If you want, and that, I think, this podcast is about intelligence, and I often say I'm the dumbest person I know, because all my kids are so accomplished in college and scientists and registered nurses and doing so well, and here I am, I was in the infantry and I was a cop. Okay, I'm not a genius, but I've written 3 books now with 2 more on the way. Things have updated since last time I talked to you. So. And the reason for that is I'm stubborn. And I think a little bit of stubbornness is good because I don't quit. My wife has heard me sitting at the computer when I'm trying to do something. And, I didn't grow up with computers. I mean, we didn't have cell phones as kids. We weren't smart that way, with the technology, people of my age. I know people of my age that, refuse to get smartphones. They have flip phones and they refuse to have laptops. It's not their thing. Well, when I hit a roadblock, I just double down. I've cussed at this computer, and I can't figure this out, and I'll sit there for hours until I figure it out. And that's how I was. When I retired and decided I wanted to write books, because I've had these stories in my head all my life. I grew up reading science fiction and fantasy novels, and then I would develop these stories in my head. I said, someday I'm going to write these down. I never did. I was always busy. So when I retired, started writing. I have failed more in writing probably than anything else. It is very difficult. You have to writing the story is easy. Then going back and rereading, having beta readers and editors, and learning that, what, I've been using the wrong word for 61 years? That happens a lot. And finding artwork and learning how to interface with Kindle Direct Publishing's platform and Kobo and Barnes and Noble, and a lot of cussing at the computer. But I am stubborn. It goes back to, if a kid can be stubborn, and if you can teach somebody, if you quit, you're not going to get anywhere. So you know what? Keep going. And I don't quit until I get where I'm going. It's the same. It was the same in the military. It's the same in the police department. You don't quit when you have a bad day.
Everything that was said there, I think stubbornness, resiliency, that is something that will get you far in life in today's world. And I had to chuckle a little bit at your comment about how this is the intelligent conversations, and you don't view yourself like your kids are geniuses and stuff. And I think kind of like just touch on maybe a little bit like what the show's about. It's everyone is unique. Everyone has their own stories, their own experiences, and only you have lived those experiences. So in a way that makes you intelligent, because only you've done it, and only you've put in the time, only you've never given up and learned these specific things, so then you can teach others. And that's kind of the point of my show. I want to share, hey, what makes you intelligent, type of thing. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's something a lot of people can benefit from and grow and improve their lives. Stubbornness is something that I think a lot of people lack, because they see like this perfect world type of thing, right? On Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all these social media platforms. So I guess I want to ask this, but I guess you already kind of answered this, be stubborn and just never give up. But how do you kind of cope with, maybe that perfect world that's portrayed on social media, and man, they're doing all these amazing things. What am I doing type of thing? How would you say for that younger generation, how would you help them kind of deal with that?
A lot of people, they look at what they want. They constantly want things, constantly want instant gratification, the big car, big house. A lot of people these days don't realize that you have more than you need. A lot of people aren't thankful, aren't grateful. I don't want to preach on religion, because I'm not really into organized religion, but I am a spiritual person. I was fortunate in life. I met some cool people that introduced me to some pretty cool spirituality, and I take time every day to be grateful and thankful for what I have. I don't know. What just came to my mind was, there's a line in a movie. It's a Denzel Washington movie. It's a dystopian movie, The Book of Eli. And this it's the end times. Everything's blown up, and Denzel Washington was alive before the world melted down, and Mila Kunis, she wasn't, and she asks him, "What was it like before?" Because in this dystopian world, in this movie, people are killing each other for water. Just basic things, and he says he says we had more than we needed, and that's to me was the most powerful line of the whole movie. People today especially Americans, are so spoiled. They've never been in another country. They've never lived out of a rucksack and slept in the dirt with a rock for a pillow, like I did in the military. I mean, they've never seen. They haven't seen bad. Even people who aren't doing as well as me, I still see them with cars and cell phones. I mean, yeah, getting the free government phones. I mean, we don't have it that bad. People forget to be thankful for what you do have. Because there's people in other countries for grateful. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. There's people in this country that don't know where their next meal is coming from. So be thankful. I'm grateful every day. I'm happy. Life is good. I don't have a McLaren to drive. Gee whiz, I'm driving an 11-year-old Chevy. But I got a new Indian motorcycle. That's good. But we have more than we need. We say, what do you want to do for dinner tonight? Where do you want to go for dinner tonight? I mean, life is good, man. People get too bogged down in wanting and not being satisfied. I mean, to me, happiness is a state of mind. Happiness, you tell yourself, I'm going to be happy. I'm happy. Life is good, right? A lot of people are miserable, and they're doing that to themselves.
Wise words there. Thank you for sharing that. That's, man, that a lot of gems in there, a lot of things we could kind of go into and stuff, but gratitude especially, I think that's something a lot of people, like you said, kind of just ignore, right? We don't really realize how good we have it. I mean, even as we're sitting here talking about, I don't drive a McLaren, but some people don't even drive a car. We have more cars per people, I think. I don't know the exact statistic, but we have more cars than actual people. Whereas in India, it's there's one car to every 10 people type of thing. And it's if you start doing, yeah, exactly. It's they don't have nearly as much stuff as, especially Americans.
Yes, Americans are very spoiled. I look at America sometimes
oh geez,
like Star Wars, the Empire. I think we're the Empire. We have everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
We got the best technology and the most money and the most everything. I mean,
no, I actually, when you bring that up, I had a guest on a couple months back, and he he actually used a Star Wars analogy too. He talked about how some people view the US as an empire actually, and they're the rebels, and the US views themselves as the rebels, and everyone else is the bad guys as the empire type of thing. And his point was, he's well, everyone wants to be the good guys, right? But that's the thing, is what's right, what's wrong, that's up for those people to decide. And I like to think that, the United States is a better empire than some of the previous ones we've encountered, and, we've helped a lot of people, but at the same time, I definitely see why other people might view us as the empire. So I'm looking at time here. Today's been a fantastic discussion, but I guess I can't forget the signature intelligent question of the day. So the question, I should have used the last question as that, but for the intelligent question of the day, you know what? I'm going to make this, you don't have to answer this, but what makes you just enjoy life? What's something that just gets you up every morning, makes you happy, and makes you, what's your favorite thing about life?
Geez, just another day, I mean, I go to bed at night. I always take my dogs out before I go to sleep at night, and I look up at the stars, and I say thank you for another day of life. I mean, I look forward to, life's never over until it's over. You got to keep going forward and keep doing things. I like to sit at my computer every morning with a cup of coffee and write for an hour. That's where these books come from. So, it's funny because people ask me, why don't you write about law enforcement? Why don't you write about the military? How do you write science fiction and fantasy novels? That's what makes me happy, right? That's what it's about. What makes you happy? You know? I mean, I would love to show a couple of my books if I could. Like this was my first novel. It's called the Federation Trilogy. Okay, look at that. Pretty thick, not bad. But these were stories in this novel that I started writing. The first story in this novel I actually wrote in 1988, and just kept it in a box, and said someday I'm going to be a writer. And I was too busy with life. Well, now I have had a chance to pursue that. And then, boom, I wrote a sequel, Federation of Max Pappas. See? And then I have my first fantasy novel, which is Maxwell Tart and the Witch of the Black Oak. These are all available on Amazon and Kobo and Barnes & Noble. And then I have a sequel to the fantasy novel coming out probably Monday. I'm all done with it. I just have to hit the launch button. It's called Maxwell Tart and the Defense of Blacktown. And then I have an actual law enforcement novel that I finally wrote. And it's going to be coming out soon. It's in the production stages. I'm just finishing with beta readers and making corrections, and then it's going to go to editing. That's going to be basically it's about a law enforcement officer who quits the big city and goes to a small town in South Dakota and meets a tribal policeman, and they investigate a murder that happened on the reservation. And then, like good murder mysteries, a second murder happens halfway through, and trying to figure out who did it. And there's a little noir, a tribal justice that occurs. And I mean, my wife thinks it was my best novel, but it was weird. I didn't want to write about stuff that wasn't science fiction and fantasy, but I have all this law enforcement knowledge in my head and cases I've worked. Plus, I also have the spiritual stuff because I have participated for years in the Native American Sweat Lodge. So I wanted to throw a lot of that in there, and a lot of prejudices that I've encountered where I was the only white guy, and they didn't want to sweat. Some people didn't want to sweat with a white guy. You're not Indian, And I never tried to be or tried to say grandma was a Cherokee princess. I just always said, no, I'm white. I'm just on a red road. And so been through a lot in my spiritual journey. And so I wanted to put some of that in the book too.
Quite a while. How long have you been writing?
Okay, so to give you a little, I'm 61. I started writing at 59. So in 2 years, I have almost 5 books out. And that's because I'm not punching a clock anymore, and I have time to sit down. And if you want to be a writer, there's an old saying, writers write. Okay? It's as simple as that, writers write. I wanted to be a writer for years, and I would write little short stories and start novels and not finish them, and I threw them in this old briefcase that I still have. If you want to be a writer, you got to write. And so now that I have time, and I think if you can, everybody, you have to have a routine. If you can find an hour a day and make that your writing time and sit down for an hour a day, it's amazing how much you can churn out at the end of a week, at the end of a month, at the end of a year. You're going to have a lot of pages written. And I have a little routine. I sit down, I read what I wrote yesterday, make any corrections that come up, and then I start on the fresh stuff. Before I start a book, I do an outline on a piece of paper, arc where I want to go, and then I do an outline for each chapter where I want to go, and then just sit down and start banging away, man.
That's impressive too. That's something not too many people, if anyone, has really done. And yeah, that's awesome. So I hate to wrap this up, but I mean, you kind of already touched on your books and what those are about, but what's the best way they can find those? Or, if people want to reach out to you, like, because they liked what we heard today, like get to know you, things like that, what's the best way they can do that?
I have an Instagram page, author page. I also have a Facebook author page, Michael Max Darrow, Darrow. Also on Kindle books. My first novel, the Federation Trilogy, is on Audible also. And Kobo, which is the biggest bookseller in Canada, and BarnesandNoble.com. It's, just look up, you can look me up by author Michael Max Darrow, or you can look up my first book, The Federation Trilogy by Michael Max Darrow. It'll come up, and then there will be an author links and links to my other books. And, I think they're fun. I try to be fast-paced, lots of action, more original Star Trek than Next Generation Star Trek. Less cerebral, more fight, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, and girls painted green. More fun stuff,
That's awesome. So, Michael, thank you for coming on today. I've enjoyed what you've shared today. I've learned a lot. I hope maybe the listeners that are tuning in today, they learned something as well. But thank you for taking the time to come on today.
Yeah, and shoot me a link too so I can put this out.
I'll be sure to do that. So everyone, thank you for listening. As you can tell, that was Michael Max Darrow. He gave you some information there. I challenge you guys, if you liked what you heard today, to go read his books. Something I think you guys should do. Stay tuned till next week. We have a great guest lined up for you guys. See you guys next week, and let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and fill out the form there. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.